The story begins deep in the Amazon rainforest, where rumors swirl about an ancient tribe that worships giant snake as gods and sacred protectors. Hearing about this elusive tribe, filmmaker Mariana becomes captivated, seeing it as the perfect subject for a groundbreaking documentary. Eager for fame, she contacts director Mike, who quickly develops a plan to locate the tribe. They assemble a team, including a photographer and 5 crew members, and soon embark on their journey into the heart of the jungle. The team consists of director Mariana, production manager Mike Robinson, her loyal cameraman and childhood friend George, sound engineer Steve, narrator Emily, anthropologist Professor John, and their boat skipper Mario. Unbeknownst to them, danger lurks ahead. As they sail more profoundly into the rainforest, ominous signs appear. A sudden downpour interrupts the sunny weather, setting a foreboding tone. As they struggle to regain their bearings, they spot an old man by a dead tree in the river, signaling for help. Mike kindly brings him aboard, believing his boat has broken down. The man, Coleman, claims to be headed in the same direction. Grateful for the rescue, he offers a shortcut through the jungle, but his unsettling presence raises the team's suspicions. They stick to their original route, unaware they're heading toward unimaginable danger. After hours of navigating treacherous waters, the boat faced an unexpected problem: a rope tangled in the propeller, stopping their journey. Mike put on his diving gear and jumped into the murky water to free it. Disaster struck when a creature burrowed into Mike's body as he freed the propeller. Panic erupted as the crew saw him thrashing in distress in the water. George and Steve dive in, rescuing him, but he was in critical condition. A poisonous wasp had crawled into his mouth, blocking his breathing. Just as hope faded, Coleman acted quickly, making an incision in Mike's neck and inserting a straw for airflow. Mike's breathing stabilized, but he needed urgent medical attention. Mariana decided they must return for help, but Coleman suggested a shortcut to save 36 hours, knowing Mike might not survive a longer route. Reluctantly, Mariana agreed, prioritizing Mike's life. The next morning, a large fence blocking the river halted their progress. Coleman urged them to blow it up, but Mariana hesitated, sensing something was off. Coleman pressured her with the urgency of saving Mike, exploiting her moral dilemma. Unbeknownst to them, his true intentions were far darker than they realized. With no other choice, Mariana reluctantly accepted Coleman's plan. The fence blocking their way was soon blown open. This decision unleashed new dangers. Small snakes rained down on the boat as they moved forward, causing panic. During the chaos, Mario discovered they had only 1 drum of fuel left, having spilled the rest into the river. Coleman confidently assured them that it would suffice to reach their destination, so Mario steered deeper into the jungle. After what felt like hours, Mario spotted an old, abandoned boat. Coleman claimed there must be fuel aboard. Eager to find supplies, George and Mario followed Coleman onto the derelict vessel. It became clear Coleman knew the ship's layout too well. It was his old snake hunting boat, left to rot. Most equipment was still intact, and he began searching for anything useful. After finding some iron tools, Coleman instructed George to return with the gear. Tragically, as they prepared to leave, Mario lost his balance and fell into the river, unaware that a massive snake lurked nearby. As his companions turned away, the snake struck, quickly entangling Mad. Despite his struggles, he couldn't escape. Back on the boat, unease grew as Mario didn't return. Sensing something was wrong, George rushed back to search for him. He found no trace of Mario, only his flashlight dangling ominously from a branch. It hit George, then Mario had fallen victim to the jungle they had dreaded. Coleman dramatically threw down a massive snake skin, claiming he had found it on the wrecked ship and suggesting that Mad had likely been eaten by a huge snake. He showed his true intention, what he has been plotting along, proposing a new plan to capture the huge snake alive, promising hefty rewards. However, Mariana insisted on waiting for Mario, hoping he might still be alive. Coleman reluctantly backed down for the moment. As night fell, Coleman approached Steve with an enticing offer of millions for capturing the giant snake. Tempted by greed, Steve persuaded the group to abandon their documentary plans. But George firmly opposed the reckless scheme. Enraged, Coleman brandished a weapon, forcing the group to comply. That night, they could only watch as Coleman executed his capture plan. Using a unique method, Coleman cast heavy ropes into the water. Suddenly, they jerked violently. A massive snake emerged, its size paralyzing everyone with fear for a while. Then the creature broke free and disappeared into the water. As tension filled the air, the group was left stunned, uncertain if they had survived or if worse was to come. The jungle, once vibrant, now felt ominous, with the giant snake lurking in the shadows. It was only the beginning of the nightmare. Everybody panicked as the giant snake began to attack, throwing out a dead monkey at John. Mariana ran to hide inside the house. The giant snake was relentless. It smashed through the window of the house, terrifying Mariana. Coleman quickly fired an anesthetic shot at the massive creature, but it had no effect. The creature whipped its tail, sending Emily into the water. Seeing his girlfriend in danger, Steve jumped into the water to save her. Just as he pulled her to safety, the anaconda slipped silently into the water, waiting. As Steve climbed out, it burst forth, grabbing him in a swift, horrifying bite. His screams echoed as he was dragged under, disappearing into the murky depths. Steve was gone. Devastated by Steve's death, his girlfriend Emily was inconsolable. Overcome with grief and anger, she blamed Coleman for everything. What had once been a hopeful expedition, was now a desperate fight for survival. Against an unstoppable predator. Coleman, still armed and furious, slapped John repeatedly, blaming George for ruining his chance to capture the giant snake. Determined to regain control, Mariana devised a plan, relying on charm and deception. She approached Coleman cautiously, but he saw George through her ruse instantly. What Coleman didn't expect was John lurking nearby. Seizing the moment, John struck Coleman from behind, knocking him out cold. George and John, still enraged, suggested killing Coleman, but compassionate Mariana decided to tie him up, unaware of the danger this choice posed. With Coleman restrained, they began planning their escape, only for Mariana to realize how dangerous Coleman truly was, a professional snake hunter specializing in catching the very creature they feared. In a chaos that followed, they accidentally crashed the boat into rocks, leaving it severely damaged. Mariana, George, and John worked in the water to secure the boat, tying rope to nearby trees. Grieving Emily, still mourning her boyfriend Steve, took matters into her own hands. Armed with a knife, she went to confront the tied-up Coleman, seeking revenge. But her inexperience betrayed her. Hesitating, she gave Coleman the opening he needed. Bound but lethal, Coleman overpowered and killed her, tossing her body into the river and reclaiming the knife. Meanwhile, George, securing ropes on shore, spotted something ominous in the bushes, a new threat looming. Before he could react, another member of their group had fallen to the ruthless Coleman, leaving them on the brink of survival with both the giant snake and Coleman as deadly threats. Sensing danger, George urged everyone to return to the boat. He and Mariana sprinted back to safety, but John wasn't as lucky. The giant snake zeroed in on him, slithering rapidly through the water. John scrambled onto the shore and climbed a rock, but the relentless snake followed. Meanwhile, Coleman freed himself and lunged at George, initiating a fierce struggle. As they fought, John hid behind a waterfall. But the giant snake wasn't fooled. It tracked him down, and John became its next victim, with nowhere to escape. The giant snake's weight caused a nearby tree to collapse onto the boat, but the others miraculously dodged the falling debris. While George tried to climb back on board, his foot got caught in some branches. The enraged giant snake turned its sights on him and twisted around him. Emily's dead body turned up, which distracted the snake for a while. Mariana, acting fast, fired several shots into the snake, forcing it to release George just in time. As the group caught their breath, Coleman reappeared, attacking Mariana and George. Just as Coleman was about to shoot George, Mike, who had been unconscious, woke up during the tree fall, came out and injected Coleman with an anesthetic. Weakened, Coleman was knocked into the river by George, but the anesthetic fell out as he hit the water, leaving him still a threat. With Mike's condition worsening, Mariana and George rushed to get him to a hospital. They speed away in their boat, eager to escape the nightmare. But before long, they spotted an abandoned warehouse. Thinking there might be fuel inside, George convinced Mariana to stop and check it out, unaware that a new challenge awaited them. They entered the warehouse searching for fuel. Moments later, George found a large cache of fuel. Before they could transport it back to the boat, Coleman emerged from the shadows and knocked them both out. When they regained consciousness, they were tied up, and Coleman, more deranged than ever, poured a strange liquid over them, intending to use them as bait for the giant snake. He then hid himself, waiting for the snake to arrive. When the snake arrived, Coleman quickly pulled the net to trap the giant snake with Mariana and George inside. The snake refocused on Coleman, while Mariana and George escaped. The giant snake finally caught its hunter and swallowed Coleman. George quickly grabbed an pickaxe and stabbed the snake's tail, buying Mariana time to scramble up a ladder and into a chimney, barely avoiding the snake's relentless pursuit. With the snake trapped below, George made a boldly moved, dumping fuel near the chimney, preparing to blow up the creature. The explosion of the fuel drums engulfed the snake, seemingly bringing it to an end. Mariana and George, battered but alive, thought they had survived. But the nightmare wasn't over. The giant snake, charred but still alive, lunged at them one final time. In a desperate act, George grabbed an axe and brought it down on the creature's head, killing it for good. With the giant snake vanquished, Mariana and George could finally breathe. They had survived, but the horrors of the jungle would stay with them forever.